The church of San Ponziano is dedicated to Spoleto's martyr Ponziano, patron of the city and protector against earthquakes. Some sarcophagi from the ancient Paleochristian cemetery are preserved in his crypt. On a slab that bears a funerary inscription, already reused as a step of the stairway that leads to the crypt, you can read the Lombard name Acipertus. In the process of integration of the Lombard culture, Christianity without doubt played a fundamental role. The Christian language shaped the communication code of the Lombard artistic culture, above all, obviously, in cult buildings, in sculptural and pictorial decorations. The image of the cross, broadly used also in the Lombard artistic culture, is of Paleochristian Byzantine origin because, in the majority of cases, Byzantine workmen laboured under Lombard commission. The cross might be represented in the jeweled form as, for example, in the church of San Salvatore. And in this case, it was a figured representation of the crosses actually used in liturgical ceremonies and which were realized in precious materials and adorned with jewels. The apocalyptic letters Alpha and Omega are also a reference to the crosses used during ceremonies, which had the Alpha and the Omega hung from the crossbars as a reference to the awareness of immortality, the beginning and the end. The conversion to Christianity of the Lombard people happened through a very long process. Paolo Diacono narrates numerous episodes that bear witness to the persistence of ancestral rituals of pagan tradition, common at the court probably due to a need on the part of the elite to affirm the uniqueness of their own traditions and origins. Also with regard to the indigenous population. Among these ceremonies was the memory of a sort of ritual cannibalism which involved eating the flesh of the enemy, a common practice among Germanic populations tied to the belief that in this way one would acquire their virtue. The incident of Rosamund, who killed her husband Alboin because he forced her to drink from her father's skull, is very well known. But the phenomenon existed even among the lower classes. For example, in the 7th century in the Duchy of Benevento, a ceremony of the sacred tree was described. This ceremony called for a race around a tree from which an animal hide was hung. At the end of the race, the hide was divided up and eaten by the horsemen. In the process of the Lombards' conversion to Christianity, we witness various manners of acquiring the local cults. There is the direct transmission of the Christian tradition, but also a transformation according to the Lombard vision, if it can be put this way, of Christian cults, such as, for example, that of Saint Michael, who became the national saint of the Lombard people. Actually, the cult of Saint Michael was transformed from the Byzantines. Saint Michael was, in fact, the military protector saint of their empire. The Lombards did nothing more than emphasize the warrior valence of this cult. But the cult of Saint Michael also had another valence, connected with the medicinal power of waters. So much so that in many cases, the places dedicated to Saint Michael are places where there are also springs held to be miraculous. There are numerous testimonies. The sanctuary of Saint Michael in Spoleto, for example, was instated on the hill where later the Basilica of San Salvatore would be built, probably because in that area there was, and still is today, a spring considered miraculous.